guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about the good God of this movie, the Jesus Christ of comic book movies, and of course we have our hetero life mate over here, Shanae. How you doing, Shanae?
Very well.
That's good. So, but yeah, we're on to the God movie, as they like to call it, the Jesus Christ. This is a religion. This is a cult. We are now a part of it because we've seen this movie. So, but we are now into the Dark Knight, and we are two fucking movies away from the glorious Robert Pattinson nipples in the new Batman, which I'm excited for. We're two. As recording of this, we're less than 2 weeks away from this movie, so I'm excited. So, but on to the Dark Knight. What do you think of this movie, my friend? Give me your quick pros and cons.
I mean, this is a great movie.
I mean, it's hard.
I
It's hard
think
to really
everybody.
say. It's hard to really say or
No,
throw anything in the pot because it's already been said. I mean,
yeah, there's not much to be said as far as the positives of this movie. I mean, you've got you got a great Batman. He's dark. He's scary. He's
I still prefer him in
Christian
Batman
Bale.
Begins, though. But yeah, I still think he's pretty good here.
No, I'm just saying it's a great Batman. I love him as a hero. I like that he has to have moral battles with himself on from start to finish with this whole series, but this movie especially.
Oh yeah.
You've got an excellent villain acted by the great Heath Ledger. May he rest in peace. But
Yeah.
his performance as a villain, he'll go down top 10 of all time, like greatest movie villains of
Oh,
all
for sure.
time.
Yeah.
You could argue he's in the top 5 for sure.
Oh yeah.
Um, I think all the other side characters are still at their best in this movie. Commissioner Gordon's a great side character to it. Harvey
Rachel.
Dent is great throughout. I like that he's kind of this like hero that gets turned to the dark side, so to speak, and
Yeah.
that it adds an interesting layer to all the great things with this movie. But I think the overall sum is this movie does a really good job at like showing moral dilemmas within the superhero world that not a lot of movies show, or not a lot of superhero movies show.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I have a whole list written over here. What I love mostly about this movie, his name pops up in most of my positives, really is the Joker. I mean, at the time when we got this, Jack Nicholson was the only Joker, and you've seen my review. I'm sure I do like his Joker, but I like my Joker to be a lot more like this Joker is, or Walking Phoenix, where he's a lot more deranged and less just being crazy and zany. That he's more deranged in this movie. I mean,
Yeah.
so that's the way I prefer Joker. And really, it's honestly like picking two of your favorite kids when it comes to Heath Ledger or Walking Phoenix. It's really tough. It's not an easy decision whatsoever. Because Heath Ledger
Yeah.
really did, honestly, like if we never got the Joker ever again, I don't think nobody would complain. I don't think nobody would be like, "Yep, that's the peak performance of a Joker right there in Heath
Yeah.
Ledger's Joker." So it really is hard, especially this movie's 15 years old now, and it's like
Yeah, it's
still
15-ish.
15 years later, it's really hard to top a performance that is Heath Ledger's Joker. Like honestly,
You're spot on though with the deranged aspect of Joker too, just
yeah,
because he is just he's very calculated in his moves. He's
yeah,
deranged and he's psychotic, but he's calculated. And I
yeah,
think you see that the most at the end when he's like about to like he's waiting for the two boats to like see which one explodes the
mm-hmm,
other.
yeah,
And he's like, "Here we go." And we're
yeah,
sitting there waiting for a second and he's like, "Why aren't they doing anything?" Like what are
yeah,
they're supposed to make, the stupid decision. You
yeah.
can see that he's had this whole plan this whole time and no but he's still kind of that deranged psychotic character. But I'm totally with you that I
Well,
think
I
Joaquin
love.
Phoenix,
Oh yeah.
this Joker, are the best ones.
Well, the thing what I love about this movie in terms of the Joker is the fact that throughout the whole movie he's talking about how they're gonna turn on each other and how they're gonna like basically everything he says comes true, other than one thing, which is that they're still good in Gotham. Like they decided not to blow each other up, and he was proven wrong. Throughout the whole
Yeah,
movie, everything he was saying, he was right about. He was right about the police being corrupt, about everything that he said throughout the movie was right, other than the one thing that Batman proved him wrong on, which was that there are good people in Gotham, and while everyone's not as crazy and deranged as you, they still are good people, that they do not all deserve to die. So I love that, where Joker was right about everything. I do love that portion. I also love which I think we both enjoyed very much. The pencil joke where he slams the guy down, it's like
Yeah.
ta-da, it's
The
gone.
pencil joke goes down as one of my favorite scenes cinematically of
Yeah,
all time. It's so perfect. It catches you off guard. This is like our first real interaction with the Joker, seeing him in action,
which
and
the opening was still pretty
all of
cool
a
too.
sudden he
Yeah,
just, I love this opening too.
yeah,
I think as we talked about with the other review, like at Batman Begins, one of its biggest flaws is how kind of quick and like non-explaining the
it was
opening
abrupt.
is.
Yeah,
Where this one is still fast, but it sets the scene that
hmm
we're in the universe of Batman. We're seeing this guy that was hinted at the end of Batman Begins.
yeah,
He's got these goons that are now killing each other. Like you can tell almost immediately, like this movie's dark and it's gonna be kind of battling that moral dilemma, like I was saying the whole time.
yeah.
But I love the intro of this one.
Yeah, well, I love the intro because especially after you've seen it and you know which one's Joker, it's kind of like a fun little game to play with yourself. Where just like I'm keeping my eye on the Joker right there and watching what he does, and especially because you can tell watching how he acts and how he plays out, he's precisely getting his plan. Like, he's precise. He's lining up the cards, lining up the dominoes to fall to the precise moment where he needs his plan to go. And you can see that with the way he acts, with the way he's talking to certain people, the way, like he predicted that guy was going to shoot one of his goons in the shoulder so that way he could get up and shoot him himself. He predicted that. So that's why
Mhm.
he said what he said, so he can get that guy to get shot. So it's like even little moments like that you pick up on where it's like this dude really thinks 70 steps ahead of everybody.
Yeah.
Really does. And again, no offense to Jack Nicholson's Joker, I just didn't feel that from him. I didn't feel in Jack Nicholson's Joker that this guy is 70 steps ahead, he's smarter than Batman. I just felt like he was just a crazy zany guy that Batman has to fight. Where in this one it's more of a he's scary not because he looks intimidating and he is crazy, he's scary because of how powerful he is and how much of a like every time he's there on the scene you're just constantly like afraid because you're like what is he doing, what is his plan, what is his end game here.
Yeah.
So
And I
that's what I
think
love
what's
about
great
that.
is like when you're watching this movie and you're enjoying the Joker, this portrayal of the Joker is like you in the back of your head, you know that he's human and he's
Yeah,
grounded and that his actions aren't necessarily governed by any logic or
yeah,
reason, but they're literally just he's there to watch the world burn, as
yeah,
the movie says. He wants to see people make bad decisions and wants to prove to the world that Gotham is this terrible place and there's no good in Gotham
yeah.
and you know but no, yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Well, I like that, but also I like how, and I'm glad they stayed true to the Joker in the Walking Phoenix movie and this movie too. Is his backstory? Like, there's no definitive backstory.
Yeah.
He's constantly changing the story. He's constantly like you don't know what to believe with this guy.
Yeah.
For all I know, the story about his father could be true. We don't know, or the story about his wife or whatever could be true. We don't know it. So I love that mystery to the character that they brought. It's like
Yeah,
you
I
really have no idea what this dude's backstory is. You have no idea.
I like that about them though. It kind of adds this layer that anybody could be the Joker, and
Exactly. No.
you're kind of just left wondering what is the story, and you can kind of pick and choose what aspects of his story you like the best. But it all kind of adds to the fact that he's got some mental issues and he's got a lot of
Yeah.
stuff going on in his head, and he remembers a lot of different things at different times, and the story he tells whenever he's like asked about, have I told you about these scars? It's like
Yeah.
those stories might all be true in their own way, but they're all like slight variations of each other.
Yeah. I am curious too, because you said you watched Batman Begins like what a year or two later on TV and stuff. When did you watch The Dark Knight, and do you think your opinion on The Dark Knight
Uh,
has changed since you watched it, or do you think it's been the same ever since you watched it as a kid?
I'd say I watched it relatively quickly after it launched. At that point, I mean, this came out 2009. This is right around the time I started actually being able to comprehend and watch adult movies as a kid. I'd say
Yeah.
like at third grade, fourth grade age group is where you start actually being able to enjoy movies. But no, I think my general opinion on this movie's always been the same. And it's just I enjoy watching it. It's fun. It's action packed. You get a good laugh here and there. It's dark. It's real. I've never really had any like blatant issues with this movie. Like,
Yeah,
it's just one of those movies that it's hard not to just sit down and enjoy every time you watch it, especially as someone who likes superhero movies in general.
yeah,
Um, I think I think this movie and this series as a whole has something for everybody in the movie world. Like if you're
yeah.
looking for a movie to kind of analyze the psychology of a guy who's crazy, this movie has it. You're looking for an
Oh yeah,
action movie, this has it. You're looking for dark humor, this movie has it at
yeah,
times. It's just this movie and this whole series between the three of them, it has a little bit of everything in it. So anything you're looking for in a movie, you can find it in one of these three.
yeah. Well, this movie in particular, I like, which it's kind of 50-50. I love how this movie it feels a lot more of like an actual Christopher Nolan has a certain style about movies. He has a very like you can tell a Christopher Nolan movie from a mile away because of the way the camera is and stuff. It's very clean looking. I like that aspect. But then there are certain shots that make it look dark and gritty. Like I love the shot of the Joker in the camera. When he's interrogating people, it makes it look like a more of a dirtier movie. And then there's certain shots with Batman, which there was one shot I loved in particular was when they're telling Barbara about Gordon's death, and Batman's just sitting up there on the guardrail while it's raining. He's just kind of looking down. That looks like a fucking shot straight out of the comics. Like that just looks like a page you would see in a Batman comic. And I'm like, I love that shot. It's a beautiful shot to me. And there's a lot of beautiful Batman shots in this movie. Which yeah, Batman Begins did have beautiful Batman shots, which I do love those shots as well. But I guess it's because this is like Christopher Nolan's fifth movie after this. Like I know Inception and like something else came out before this that he worked on before he did The Dark Knight. It's just you can definitely see going from Batman Begins to The Dark Knight, the upgrade that Christopher Nolan definitely has improved as a filmmaker for sure. Even
Mm-hmm.
to just certain shots, to even the way the story was written. While Batman Begins, like you said, rushed in there a little abruptly, had a few dull moments every now and then. This movie is just constant going from the start all the way to the end. Like there's no breathing room. It's just constantly let's go, let's get into it, let's go. And you can definitely tell that he's definitely crafted his work from Batman Begins to Dark Knight as a director and a writer or whatever. You can definitely see that.
Honestly, I think the only complaint I would have with this movie is that it is so fast paced.
Yeah, I
It
can
like that
understand that.
would be the one thing that if I were to bring up any flaw with it, is it really just it starts and it keeps going,
Yeah,
and you're just kind of flying through this story really, really, really quickly. And I mean that's not a bad thing at all. Like I don't mind it at all, but I do think as far as the pace goes, they probably could have slowed this down a little bit and maybe even broken up some of the chunks of it
yeah,
separate movies, if Heath Ledger was still alive, or
yeah,
there's a lot of things that they just kind of piled into this one movie, and it can be a lot, especially if you're not prepared to sit down for the full 2.5 hours.
yeah,
That is a commitment of time. So
yeah,
I think pace would be the one thing if I were to have a complaint about this movie. It'd probably be the pace, but I personally don't mind it, but I can imagine it could bother some people,
yeah.
especially if you're new to superhero
Um,
movies.
the only speaking of like problems, I should say, when it comes to my list, I have a lot more positives than negatives for sure. I don't hate this movie or anything like that. I do love this movie. It's one of the greatest comic book films of all time. I will always acknowledge that. Only two problems I really have with this movie is I personally, and this is just more of a me thing, I don't personally like the bat suit in this one. I've always liked the more suit from Batman Begins and other iterations. Again, it's not a bad suit by any means. It's just when I think of Batman, I don't think of a military armor,
Yeah.
very kind of suit. It's not a bad suit by any means. It's what you would call an iconic suit to some people, but it's just for me when I think of Batman, I don't think of that suit. So not
Yeah.
knocking the suit, it's just more of a personal opinion. And then
And I was with you on that. Like
yeah,
when you brought it up in the movie, I even said like I like this suit, but I do think the Batman Begins suit is more of a Batman suit.
yeah.
When I think of Batman, I think of more of the Batman suit.
Well, and it's I can't really necessarily go into why I personally why I like the Batman Begins suit. It's just more of a I guess it's just because like the Batman logo is really small. There's a lot of lines and stuff. It's just it looks more of like a athletic type of suit and not like a Batman suit, like an armor, big buffy kind of Batman suit. That's the only way. And I don't remember what the Dark Knight Rises suit looks like. I think it looks pretty much the
I think
exact
it's
same as the
the
Dark
same.
Knight. So
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the same.
so that'll probably be the exact same thing I'll have for that movie. And the other thing, and it's not necessarily a negative, it's just more of a I guess because of the world we live in. I do love The Dark Knight. I just don't love it as much as other people. Like everybody has this movie in their like, this is the greatest thing of all time, and this is, you know, the best Batman movie and stuff. And then, hey, I'm not knocking you. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you. It's just more of a, there are better comic book movies out there than The Dark Knight. You know, there's Logan, there's Endgame. There are better movies. Dark Knight ain't just the only one. So, and especially when like Joker came out, you kept seeing that. It's like Joker's great, but it ain't no Dark Knight. It's like, oh yeah, but just take it for what it is, you know. Like it's a good Joker movie. It doesn't necessarily have to be better than The Dark Knight. It doesn't have to be anything other than a good comic book movie. So, so I guess I mean, and I bet you we're gonna see it when the Batman comes out. When the Batman comes out, it's gonna be like, this is a great movie, but it ain't The Dark Knight. And it's like, really?
I think what I'll add to that is I agree with you in that one of the problems that this movie does bring is that every superhero movie gets compared back to this one
Yeah,
of whether or not it's up to standard. You know, I agree with you in the fact that that can be problematic, and I
yeah,
definitely, you know, I have an issue with that just because I do think people should try and appreciate movies for what they are and not just compare them to one specific movie.
yeah.
And I do think this movie deserves all the hype and praise
Oh
it
yeah, for
gets,
sure.
but I definitely would agree. It's not the greatest movie of all time.
Yeah,
That's if you think that you're foolish and you've obviously not watched a lot of movies. Greatest comic book movie of all time. That's
it's
always
debatable.
going to be an
It's
opinion.
debatable. Yeah,
That's an opinion. You have to respect that though.
yeah,
You know, for me, I will personally say this is my favorite comic book movie of all time, just because
yeah,
it was one of the earliest ones for me,
yeah,
and it will always hold itself up there for me. But you know, I've seen a lot of really great movies since that aren't that far away from it as far as my
yeah,
pure enjoyment. You know, it's not like this movie is that much better than any of the comic book movies we've received in the last, I mean, even 3 years, I'd say. But no, I agree with you on that though.
yeah. I guess if anything, it's just more of a, it's a frustrating thing because it's like, this movie's 15 years old. It's kind of time to move on. You know, it's a great movie. We'll always acknowledge it's a great movie, but to keep taking movies that come out today and compare it to a movie that came out 15 years ago constantly, it's like, move on. You know, it's like, imagine if we took every Martin Scorsese movie and tried to compare it to Goodfellas, whether it's The Irishman, whether it's whatever, and it's like, Goodfellas is great, but we don't need to compare it to Goodfellas every single time. Martin Scorsese can make other good movies that are not Goodfellas. We don't need to keep comparing it. So
Yeah.
the same thing with Nolan. Everybody takes The Dark Knight as, this is Nolan's masterpiece. It's like, he has other good movies though, like Inception, The Prestige, you know, Dunkirk, all these other good movies. The Dark Knight ain't just his holy trinity right there. That's not exactly what he should be praised for. He does have other movies in his catalog. So it's just more
I
of
mean,
a nitpick, I guess, as a
everyone's
fan.
right to their own opinion, though. You know, it's if this is your favorite Christopher Nolan movie, good for you. I'm happy
Yeah,
for you. You know, if this is your favorite comic book movie, that's fine. That's good.
yeah.
You know, I don't think it necessarily matters. It's whether or not this is your favorite or not. I
Well,
think is it's fine.
yeah. But something I came up with when I first watched this again, I never thought about until now, which I'm like, shoot, they should have done that. Is, I think they should have introduced Catwoman in this movie. That way, when we see her in The Dark Knight Rises, it's a lot more of a. It's not just out of the blue nowhere. It's like, oh, here's Selena Kyle. You kind of had like, kind of like how they did in Batman Begins, where they set it up the Joker with the card at the end. They should have done
Yeah.
something like that with Catwoman, where either Bruce Wayne gets a letter from Selena Kyle or something to do with Catwoman that would have kind of set it up where we meet her in The Dark Knight Rises. That way, it doesn't just seem so like, well, we got to shoehorn in Catwoman because this is the last movie in this trilogy. We got to introduce Catwoman. It's like, okay,
I do think it would be nice if they introduced her in this, but I also, going back to what I was saying earlier, like with the pacing of it, I feel
yeah,
like it would be just another layer of adding on to this like already dense movie.
yeah,
You know, that would be my one fear with adding another thing to it. Does it become too dense, too much new information? You know, but I agree with you. It would have been
yeah.
kind of cool to see like a cameo from her or, you know, even just like you said, a letter. But I mean,
Hmm.
how do you work that into this story with how dense it already is?
What and now after seeing it, I can't understand why, because the movie is supposed to, you're supposed to, if anything, this movie is kind of like how No Way Home just did. It's supposed to leave you with this like emptiness of like, oh my god, Batman is a criminal now. He is wanted. He is, you know, he's everything that he isn't. And so it's kind of leaving you as a fan. You're like, well, shit, where are they gonna go? Like, like what are they gonna do? So it's supposed to like leave you with that emptiness where it's like, oh wow, okay, we're really ending on this. We're really ending on this. Batman is a criminal, and we're going after him. See you in the third movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, geez. So it kind of ends on a sour note because Batman has to go into hiding and all this other stuff. So I can understand, why they didn't add it, but it just would have been kind of nice as a trilogy, as a coherent trilogy, to where you would have got some type of tease that would have led you into the Dark Knight Rises, just to kind of make it feel coherent.
I mean, to play devil advocate to that argument, though, I will say what's kind of cool about these movies is that they are kind of standalone in that sense.
Yeah,
You can just pick up one of these movies and watch it and not
yeah.
need the next one.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
for
like
sure.
that's something that's kind of cool about it at the same time. I do agree
Yeah,
with you to kind of add to the fluidity of the trilogy. It would be nice to have, the mention of Selena Kyle, or even just like Bane's name being dropped. Like,
yeah,
like you have something like that too, where like Bane doesn't just come out of nowhere. Like maybe you see the first flash of him, or
yeah,
just something to kind of tease into that next movie a little bit.
yeah,
I'm with you on that though. It would be nice.
yeah. Outside of that, like I said, it's really hard to really like put anything new into a pot that everybody and their mother has already said for the
Yeah.
past 15 years. So it's really hard to sit there and be like, well, this was cool, this was cool, because like everybody's already said that. So it's really hard to like add your own spin on to an already like it's like sitting here and talking about Citizen Kane. It's like everybody likes Citizen Kane. It's a great movie. What necessarily can I add to Citizen Kane?
I don't think that's the point of this review.
Yeah.
I think the point of this review is just appreciating a great movie, and it's everything that could be said has already been said for us.
I
I
will
think
say too,
we've
Batman
added
does
our
kill in this movie. Y'all's, perfect Christopher Nolan trilogy. He does kill in this movie. I mean, you can argue Ra's al Ghul all day long, but you can't argue Two Face.
I mean, yeah, I don't, I've already said this to you. Like, I'm not one of those people that care if Batman kills or
No,
not,
I
but
know.
it is funny though it is funny that when people say like, "Oh, Batman doesn't kill," he fucking killed Two
I
Face. If he
only
did,
reason
he
I
killed.
bring it up and I joke about it is because everybody loves Michael Keaton. Everybody loves, Nolan's Batman. But when Ben Affleck came out, Batman v Superman, he's, beating all those dudes up in the warehouse. Everybody and their fucking mother was bitching. Oh my god, Batman's killing. It's like, he's killed in the other two iterations. Why are y'all bitching now? So that's the only reason I even bring it up, is because Ben Affleck gets hate for that, and it's like, but the other two Batman are all right.
Yes, the difference. The only like thing I could think of was maybe that like Batman's only killing the big bad in the movie, and Ben
Mm,
Affleck's was killing some random grunts,
yeah.
which you could argue, it's a little bit worse of a crime if you're gonna call it that. But I'm
Well,
also you. I mean, I've made it clear. Like, I
yeah,
don't really care if he kills people.
yeah.
Obviously, it is kind of cool that he is someone that's morally just and doesn't kill. But
Well,
you
with the
know,
Ben Affleck thing, I think what they were trying to do was trying to take a bitter old Batman who doesn't give a shit anymore and is just killing. And I think the point of his arc was to be where he kind of gets out of that hole, and people like a Superman or other people in his life are going to bring him up, because even if you look in Zack Snyder's Justice League, where he's like, have faith, Alfred, and he's more optimistic and shit. I think that was the whole point of Batman in those movies, was he was supposed to go from a bitter old man who didn't give a shit and was just beating up people, to the hero he was supposed to be, which is saving people and being a protector and all that stuff. So I think that's what they were going for. That's what it seems like, at least. Of course, we'll never get that true vision from those movies. But I just like to make a little joke at those people, because it's just like, this one kills too, and for all I know, he might kill Bane in Dark Knight Rises. I have to rewatch it to find out. I'd have to rewatch that one to find out. Another thing too, we haven't really talked much about this one, is Two Face. I like I do like Two Face in this movie. He's definitely a lot better than what he was in Batman Forever, with the fucking purple Tommy Lee
no,
Jones as
I like
Two
Two
Face.
Face. I mean, as a villain, I wouldn't necessarily call him a villain in this movie.
Yeah, I
I,
mean,
I he is a Batman like villain. I
yeah,
don't disagree with that, but in this movie specifically, I think it was just
it was justified.
bad circumstances.
Yeah,
It kind of stacked upon each other. I wouldn't call it justified, but
yeah,
he kind of comes in as like this character that is he's the DA that's taking down big crime, and he's the white knight that is saving the hero, like the
yeah,
city of Gotham, and it his worst nightmare happens, and that the love of his life is killed and
Yeah.
murdered, and then the person who did the killing of his wife basically is like, "I have an idea for you." So it's like
Yeah.
I feel like Christopher Nolan's Batman doesn't necessarily create him as a villain in this movie, but
No.
more of just like a guy who some shit happened to him, and
Which, if you
it's
you could definitely say that you can definitely say Joker was turning Two Face into what Joker is, because there's that classic Joker line that I love where it's just like, "You're like me, I just had worse bad days," and you could
yeah,
look at it exactly like that, where it's just like a good guy like Harvey Dent got turned into a corrupted man or a bad man because he had bad days, because he had the
yeah,
worst day of his life, which was when his Rachel died, and and all
Face
and,
off!
and all hell went to loose. So
Yeah,
it to me it's a perfect mirror of to me
yeah,
I always looked at Batman's villains as they're a mirror of himself. You have Two
yeah,
Face, who I always thought Two Face is what Bruce Wayne could have become if he didn't channel his demons. He could have been a corrupt, billionaire who used Batman as a tool for political reasons. You have Joker, who where if he never got over the death of his parents, he would become an insane man. It's just I always
yeah.
looked at Batman's villains as a mirror of Batman himself. Of a
I like
this is
that thought.
this is what you would become if you didn't do the things that you've done. And Joker to me and Two Face both are a perfect resemble of that. A perfect resemble of Two Face would be Bruce Wayne if he was not a good man, and Joker would be Batman if he was not a good man. So I always looked at it like that in this
I'm
movie
with
at
you on
least,
that.
and you can definitely tell the inspiration from that as well. I mean, because like I said, when Two Face becomes what he does, Two Face or whatever, he kind of definitely starts unleashing that side that you could kind of see when he was Harvey Dent, that very political guy, that very like authority kind of figure. But it wasn't to the extreme where he's fucking holding people hostages and shit. You can definitely see the way Joker twisted his mind for sure. Of course, a lot of Rachels from
I
here and there, but
I also, like I said, I don't consider him necessarily a villain in this
yeah,
movie, but he's more of Joker's last laugh
yeah,
in Batman's life, as far as he made Batman have to make the decision to sacrifice himself as the hero to make himself become the villain in order to keep Gotham hopeful and
yeah,
thinking Gotham is good, So
yeah,
I think it was more of just a last laugh of Joker, like saying,
yeah,
haha, suck it, Batman, you're now the bad guy.
yeah.
So no, I really like Toothface. I like Harvey Dent as a character. I think he's pretty cool.
I am curious because this is the last time we ever seen the Joker, which there were plans for him in The Dark Knight Rises, but I'm curious, as a fan, what would you have liked to seen them use the Joker with in The Dark Knight Rises? If you had to like make your own little fan version of Dark Knight Rises, would you have wanted Joker in there? Or would you wanted them just to kind of keep him out of there?
I think it would have been better if they didn't put Joker in The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah,
That I know that might be a hot take, but I think Bane is the villain in that movie. I have plenty of issues with that movie that we can talk about when we get there, but
yeah,
with the Joker, I think he could make an appearance as far as he's in the prison, let's say, and then when Bane lets everybody out,
yeah,
escapes type thing. You know what I mean? Like, and then that kind of alludes to the fourth one or the fifth one,
yeah,
going down the road if they wanted to keep making movies. But like looking back, like I feel like if Joker was in The Dark Knight Rises, it wouldn't have been Bane probably would have been a completely different character.
yeah. Uh, from what I know, again, I haven't read this in a long time. This was a long time ago when I read this. What I know was what Nolan wanted to use the Joker for was it was going to be towards the end when Batman, got out of the Lazarus pit and was about to go fight Bane. He was going to go to Arkham Asylum. He was going to have a conversation with the Joker, and he was going to ask him, "How do I defeat him?" And basically kind of like ask the most evilest person
Yeah,
how to get rid of him. So that was his role. He was going to be a small little scene where he was going to talk to him.
I
He wasn't
like
going to
that.
be in a
I
big.
like that idea.
He wasn't going to be in the
Yeah,
big picture. Which yeah, I'd like that too because it
that would have
definitely at
been
least
cool.
shows that he's in an asylum. You definitely see what happened because like the way this movie ends, you kind of don't know what happens to him. It's like you just kind of
Oh,
get left to: is he in jail? Is he in Arkham Asylum? Is like what would they do with the Joker? So and you never hear
that's
about it
kind
again.
of
So
why I'm. it's sort of why I'm hopeful with this Batman coming up, and Robert Pattinson's Batman. I kind of hope Joker comes into play at some point.
Yeah.
Um,
Which there are
I
reports
don't
that they
want
do
them
have
to
a
do
Joker
it.
cast. So
I don't want them to bring him in too quickly. I
yeah,
want them to just kind of make some movies about Batman that have those alternate villains, build the world up as big as we can, and then as like the ending of a trilogy, let's say, that's when you bring Joker in as like this final, the final boss, so to
yeah,
speak. Or you can even kind of play it where the first two movies all the people are doing these things because they're all being like, they're the puppet master is
yeah,
Joker. He's been there the whole time, but he's
yeah.
just been telling the Riddler to do this, the Penguin to do this, and all the villains in the first one, and if they make a second one, so on and so forth. But I
From
think it would be
reports,
cool to
yeah.
get.
I said from reports I hear that they already have casted a Joker and that he is in the movie. I don't know if he's like a big part in the movie, if he's a post credit scene, but the reports I've heard is that they've already casted a Joker and that Joker is in this movie somewhere. Which I hope, and this might be not a popular opinion, but I hope he's not in it, just because I don't want to see a Joker
I'm
yet.
with you.
I don't want to see a
I
Joker
I'm,
yet.
I agree with you. I don't want him to be in this movie. I think
Now
this
I wouldn't
movie
mind
should
if
be
it's like a
good.
cameo, like if if he's
Yeah,
walking down
it's
Arkham
got to be
Asylum and
quick.
you see him in like a jail cell or something. That's fine. That's like a cool little holy shit there he is kind of thing. But I don't want like a 5 minute, 10 minute sequence with the Joker or anything like crazy like that because I don't
Yeah.
want to see this Joker
I
yet. So
I think the world needs more building before he comes into play. But
well,
no,
you gotta let Riddler shine. This is supposed to
yeah,
be a Riddler
let him
movie.
shine. This is his movie,
Yeah,
But
yeah. So I
no, I'm
mean,
excited.
yeah,
I think this movie, as we were talking about earlier, with the Dark Knight kind of being I think the hero movie that everyone compares to.
yeah,
I think the key for this movie to be successful is it needs to stand out. It
yeah,
needs to Robert Pattinson needs to be acting as great as he always does. I think Selena Kyle needs to be great.
mm,
I think the actor they chose for Riddler is pretty cool. I feel like he can play a pretty deranged character.
yeah,
I think this movie, if it kind of just nails all of those like classic Batman tropes
yeah,
and good action, good darkness, good grittiness, it's not it and it's still grounded in reality. I think that's
yeah,
one of the things that makes Batman so cool to everybody is that he is grounded in reality. He's just a guy wearing a
yeah.
suit, throws some batarangs every once in a while.
Yeah, which
So it's
I'm excited to
I'm
see because
hopeful for it.
we haven't seen batarangs in this new Robert Pattinson version. We haven't seen like his version of the batarangs. So I'm curious to see the batarangs that he might throw in this
Yeah.
movie. It'd be pretty cool. But I can't think of anything else to say about the Dark Knight unless you do one little
No, I
thing
was just gonna say we
left.
can do our like ratings if you wanted to do that, if you had anything.
Um,
Like,
yeah,
do
I
you
mean, I
have
don't,
a rating out of 10 you'd give it?
yeah, I don't necessarily
Like,
do ratings on my channel, but I'll do one now just to like kind of solidify a rating. I would
and
probably give it
use
a
the scale of like 5 is average.
yeah.
5 is the most average movie you've
I'd
ever
give it
seen.
probably an 8.5. Honestly, like an 8.5. It's not bad. I
I
mean,
actually,
that's what it's
I
ranked on IMDb, I think.
yeah,
So,
I actually I gave it an 8.8
yeah,
on my own personal scale.
yeah.
I would all like it's very close for me for being a perfect movie.
No, it
I
really is. Honestly, like
yeah,
as I was watching it, it was like I don't have any problems with this movie
no,
other
and
than just his suit, and that's not necessarily the movie's problem. That's just a me thing.
no,
So it's not necessarily an issue.
yeah. No, but I give this an 8.8. I don't know what it's missing, but it's not a 10 out of 10 for me. I'd
Yeah,
almost want to just say I give it a 9 out of 10, but
yeah,
I keep my 10 out of 10 for a limited amount of movies, and
yeah,
this movie's close, but it's just not there.
yeah. I mean, like I said, a lot of it is also preference. I mean, like I said before, I do love this movie. It's just more of a every time I watch this movie or every time afterwards, I'm like, I love this movie. It's just that there's that little thought in the back of my mind, but it's like I love it, but God, people hold this movie up to a certain standard. And it's like it's good, but it's not that great. It definitely is a little bit overhyped. Like especially if you just like talk to a regular old Batman fan, they're like Dark Knight's a masterpiece. It's like you're not wrong, but it's not the greatest movie of all time. Like it's great. So that's why I give it an 8. I'm not one of those like 10 out of 10 best movie ever. You can't argue with me. It's like let's
I
be
think
realistic for a second. It's only an 8. It's an 8 or a 9.
people, honestly, that's the last thing I'll leave you with before we head off is like I judge people how they rank this movie as far
Yeah,
as like their movies of all time, and I think this movie belongs in that like 8.5 to 9 range where it's
yeah.
like it's a great movie, but it's not like
Because
10,
how I
you
look
know?
at it like this: while The Dark Knight's great, I still say, to me, and again, it could just be a me thing. I think Spider-Man 2 is better than The Dark Knight, personally. Again, that could just be a me thing, but I think
I
Spider-Man 2
think
is a
that's
better
just
film.
a thing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't personally agree with that, but that's a whole nother conversation.
So like I say, it could just be a me thing, but it's just like, but the point is, there are better movies than The Dark Knight. So, but yeah, no. Outside of that, I have nothing else to say about this movie unless you do. And then we're on to the great one, the best one out of the trilogy, right? What's his fuck? Tom Hardy in a asthma suit where he's like, "I am the master," which I'm trying to see if I can maybe get a Bane mask for, and just do the whole review in a Bane mask, which I think would be kind of funny.
You've been adopted, dear dog. I was born in it.
You're being knocked into the dark. I was molded by it. I fought it in the chambers of darkness. This movie's, I guess, and real quick about the Dark Knight, because these movies are so popular, they got memed. So there's a lot of memey parts in this movie where I'm like,
Yeah.
God damn it! Like I'll throw a fucking
Yeah.
meme up here on the image on the screen, but it's just like, some men want to watch the world burn, and then it's like a fucking image of like a 400-pound Joker. It's just like, God damn
Yeah.
it, God damn it, fucking hell. But thanks again for coming on. I'm sure you'll come on for the Dark Knight Rises and probably the Batman for sure. I'd probably say. But definitely for the Dark Knight Rises for sure, we're gonna be consistent with that franchise. And also too, I'm gonna take the skit from the Dark Knight I had planned, put it in its own separate video. So that should be coming out after the Dark Knight at some point. So, but thanks for coming on again as always, and we'll see you in the greatest movie, The Dark Knight Rises. So, bye.